Hello everyone, and I'm back. Your NN host Naruto. I'm gonna be taking over QEDK this time because he is not available. He is busy with more important things for this week. But we have Nick from NodeKit. NodeKit is one of our really good partners, and we've been in touch for a while. So like just a quick introduction, Nick. Can you like tell a brief overview about you and what you guys are doing at NodeKit so far?
Yeah, definitely. Firstly, appreciate you guys having us on. Big fans of everything Avail is doing and very excited to be working together. But yeah, I'm Nick. I'm from NodeKit. A little bit about me is I grew up in America, went to university in the middle of nowhere at Iowa State University in just the middle of a cornfield. And that's where I actually met my co-founder, Noah. And through Noah, I met my other co-founder, Ricardo, who went to the University of Wisconsin. But yeah, couple years ago, we just kind of met up, started building out some different projects together, and eventually settled on NodeKit. And so, what NodeKit does is we're the composability layer that enables synchronous communication across chains. So, what we believe, and what many people other in the blockchain ecosystem believe, is that composability is the most important feature of a blockchain, and we saw that right through Ethereum's DeFi summer and all the different dApps that got built out on Ethereum. The composability and the ease of use of communicating across them was really what was enabling the rapid growth of the blockchain ecosystem. The problem was we just ran out of space. Too many people wanted to do it. So we went to this roll-up centric roadmap that had all these different roll-ups that are building up on top of Ethereum. And it's fantastic because it provides the scale that we need to reach new users in blockchain and bring them on board. The problem is in that process, we lost the valuable composability of the L1. So what we do at NodeKit is we enable synchronous communication between L2s. So it can feel like you're on an L1 with the scalability of an L2. And so we do that through two different features. We have Seq, which is our shared sequencer, and Javelin, which is a first of its kind super builder. And what the super builder enables is the atomic execution of transactions across chains. And so with these two components combined, basically you take transactions from multiple different rollups, you bring them into a single block, and because they share a block, you have the user experience of being on a single chain, the composability of an L1 with the scalability of an L2. So we're big into composability. We love composable networks like all these different L1s, and we love the scalability of L2s. So combining the best of both worlds is how we've kind of formulated our business and how we've brought about these different products to the market.
That is actually good. And I heard a little bit of like that you I think you went to Iowa and your the co-founder went to University of Wisconsin, right? That's pretty good. I'm based in Chicago right now, and I've been to like Wisconsin. I've been to Michigan. Really love that place. And then I think I want to go to Iowa and Indiana next for the summers. So probably I'll see you.
Don't
But
worry about it. It's not that exciting.
that's completely okay. I think if you can work remote, I think it's a really good place. But I got a question for you. So tell me a little bit, like you said that you guys were thinking on what to do next and how you guys met your co-founder, how you met your co-founder. But let's go a little bit more into the details of like the journey with NodeKit. I understand that you wanted to focus on composability and all those stuff, but how did the early days look like? What the journey really began? Um, when do you think like it was actually like the time like, oh yeah, we should build this for sure, and then there's a scope in this, or like there's a future for this, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so Noah and Ricardo knew each other through high school. They had worked on some projects back in the day there. And then I met Noah through the algorithmic trading club at Iowa State, which doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, now that we're gone. But I met him through that initially, and we just kind of clicked. We hung out a little bit there, and then went our separate ways. We never talked again. And then one day, Noah had some crazy idea to do. I don't even know what it was at the time. It was something about, you know, really highly leveraged assets on chain, something, very trading degen focused. very fun stuff like that. And so he texted me on Discord. He said like, "Hey, I got this cool idea. Would be cool to meet up with you sometime and talk about it." And I said, "Cool." And we actually shared a calculus class at the time with one another. And so we met up after that class. We walked through the pouring rain. He can tell it better, but I thought he was walking towards his apartment, and he was walking the complete opposite direction. We were talking about this new cool project that we could be building, and yeah, we decided to just take a shot at it. Brought Ricardo in as well, and through many different iterations, we started doing that. We started doing a different project in like data analytics, things of that nature, really eventually leading us towards being focused on what seemed to be the future, which is the scalability of Ethereum, right? So rollups were, at the time, like a reasonably hot topic, obviously not as hot as they are right now, but back in May of 2023, so a year ago now actually, is when we started to build out NodeKit. And because we were trying to do these different things to like service rollups and try to help rollups launch different, feeling out the market, seeing what was there. But there were two fundamental issues that we identified that rollups had. And the first is that they're centralized, right? So you have the centralized sequencer, a single point of failure, all these different things that can go wrong when you have a centralized system. Blockchains should be decentralized, and so we think, oh, okay, great. Let's provide a decentralized sequencer for all these different rollups. But then you can further expound upon that, where you say like, hey, we're already going to be sharing this block with all these different rollups. Like there has to be some ability to have this cross-chain communication because you're sharing this block, right? And so then we started building out the idea of like the shared sequencer and how the shared sequencer can provide that composability for it. And the problem is that the shared sequencer can only go so far. So many people's critiques in the past of like a shared sequencer is that it can only provide atomic inclusion. So you can only say that it's going to be included in the block. And so through our development and through going out to different people who are developers, going out to the community and saying, hey, like, what do you want us to build? Like, what would be
Mhm.
valuable to you for us to provide? And they said, oh, we really want the full thing. We want the composability element of it. And so we came back. We just kept iterating together. I mean, it was just us in our apartments in the middle of nowhere, Iowa. So you had no distractions at all. You can just
For
focus on
sure.
this. And yeah, really came to be through a really strange process of iteration on many different projects in the blockchain space. But overall, it seems to have landed on something that people are enjoying. And yeah, definitely always continuing to iterate based on the community feedback, because that's how we got here. And that's how we're going to continue to scale, is through the feedback of community.
For sure. I think that's really good. Like one of the points I really like, and it's not even like technology or how you're looking at it. The one of the most important points I like is like you're based in middle of Iowa where you do not have any distractions. You know, I think crypto Twitter itself is so much distracting that you keep on going on it every day, and then you have like a life outside. But as a founder, like there's a big point when you want to like get into deep into like the technology without any kind of disturbance. So really, like a really good idea, and I think your journey is like really good. We have like Prabal and Anurag. They have like a little bit of similar of the journey when they started back in 2017 or so. So like Anurag started with the Polygon, and Prabal was head of research over there. Uh, their stories are pretty much similar. So like a lot of people in the space have similar stories. Okay, so
Yeah,
moving.
being in the middle of nowhere is definitely a benefit. So highly recommend. I'm moving to New York soon, living in London right now, but if you
Oh,
have the
nice.
chance, go absolutely middle of nowhere and just focus. It's a
Oh,
great
yes, yes.
strategy. That's where the alpha
Um,
is.
and I think New York is pretty good too for the Web3 culture. I have some friends over there, and then they
Yeah,
basically like talk ideas for sure. There are like a few events, so just get together, talk more things, and similar for SF as well. Definitely nicer places to be in the Web3 culture. But
yeah,
yeah, that's
definitely.
pretty good that you're moving there. Excited for that.
Yeah, no, that'll be fun. Just got approved for my apartment recently, so building out the office there. Good to build up the network as well. So
For
if you're in New
sure.
York, obviously feel free to reach out.
Oh yes, if you guys have an office, I'll definitely like go around for sure, talk to you.
Perfect.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more into the node kits. product that you're building, and I think you said it's Seek, which is basically a decentralized sequencer, shared sequencer, right? So
Yep.
what is it? Like, tell me a little bit more about it. Why do we need it? Uh, do you think the devs or the end user will be, happy about it or not happy about it? They'll find it useful, or what do you think is the like, the real use case? What's the PMF as people say?
Yeah, definitely. So we have two main products that work together at NodeKit. So we have Seq, that's SEQ, short for sequencer. It's a good name. That is the decentralized shared sequencer. And then we also have Javelin, which is the super builder, and we can talk about that a little bit later. But so what Seq is, it's a decentralized shared sequencer. And so there's two different verbs in there or adjectives in there. So it's decentralized, meaning that it's just a decentralized network of nodes that are running it versus your typical L2 centralized sequencer, right? Most of the L2s on the market today are still centralized in their sequencing, and so we provide the decentralization to that. It's also a shared sequencer, so you can have a decentralized sequencer that isn't shared by multiple different rollups. And so sharing a sequencer just means that multiple different rollups submit transactions to the same sequencer and they actually share the block. And then we send the same block back up to the rollups. And so the combination of the two, so you have the decentralization, and that provides better security, better uptime, all those fantastic things around like just the whole point of being in blockchain around decentralization, right? And then the sharedness of it
Yep.
is what promotes this interoperability and composability across the different chains. But the thing about a shared sequencer is that it fundamentally is limited in the guarantees that it can provide, right? So what you can do with a shared sequencer is have atomic inclusion of transactions, meaning that I have two transactions across two different chains that I want to go through, but I can only guarantee their inclusion to the chain, that they're going to go to the chain. What you can't guarantee with just a shared sequencer is the execution of those transactions. So the reason you want the execution of the transactions, think about like how a bridge works. A bridge gives you atomic execution of transactions, but it just
Yep.
takes a different amount of time each time you do it, right? So what you can provide with, so you need the combination in order to have composability of atomic inclusion within the next block and atomic execution in on each rollup, so guaranteeing the validity of the transactions. So the way you can do that is through a super builder, and all a super builder is like a builder on Ethereum. You just have a
Mhm.
builder on Ethereum, except here we're building across multiple different domains. So we're doing a builder on rollup A and the same builder on rollup B. And so the builder can provide the atomic execution of transactions, guaranteeing the validity of two transactions within a bundle. So if you want to do a cross-chain interaction, then you
Yep.
submit those two transactions to the shared sequencer. The shared sequencer atomically includes the transactions. The super builder atomically executes the transactions. And what that provides is the composability that's seen on these big monolithic chains, but with the scalability of the L2s. So you need both sides of that, and that's what we provide.
Interesting. So, I see a lot of moving parts here, and then there's also like, decentralization involved. So, what do you say is the cost here for, like the time and the cost, because time is also very important. So, any kind of cost that the rollups incur or the end user incur, what kind of costs are involved here?
Yeah, so as far as time is concerned, right, you obviously have to spend time with the developing teams of these different
Yep.
rollups to integrate it. And, that's honestly been one of the greater pleasures of doing what we do, which is working very closely with these teams to build up the infrastructure together, build it in the way that they like, build it in a way that we like so that, it's sustainable. Because obviously, if we build a network that nobody likes, then nobody's going to use it. And so why are we even building it? So working with all these different rollups from day one is the most important thing. So that's been absolute pleasure, and that's kind of the time element of it. Is you got to spend the time to build the thing that people want. Um, but the other side of it is the cost incurred to the rollup, and that's absolutely one of the main questions that we get because what it sounds like is if I'm the sequencer, then I'm going to be collecting the sequencing fees from the rollup, and that's
Mhm.
just not true. So
Yep.
the sequencing fee is a bit of a misnomer. It's a bit of a
Okay.
misphrasing in it. So what you're actually getting, we're actually paying for on a rollup is just the execution of the transaction. So in our system, we allow for rollups to keep 100% of the fees that they previously made through the sequencing fees. We don't even touch them. They stay within that protocol entirely, so they don't lose out on any of that revenue, right?
Okay.
The other unlock that we can give them is the ability to earn more money through cross-chain transactions. So when you're doing these different cross-chain transactions, there's going to be a cost associated with the user, just as if you
Hmm.
pay a bridge or any of these different interoperability solutions to do these cross-chain transactions. What we do is we allow for the rollups to share in that, and through that, they actually internalize the fees that were previously leaked to these different interoperability solutions, so they get compensated for the transactions that are occurring on their platform, but the cross-chain transactions. So they're actually able to increase the amount of money that they make, because you can't go to a community and say like, hey, can I steal all of your revenue? They're obviously going to say no.
For sure.
So you have to build it up in a way that the community actually benefits from integrating, rather than just trying to pull a fast one on them and saying, oh, you might get some revenue and then not giving it to them. So we need to build the systems so that's sustainable for everyone who's participating in them, and long term, if we have rollups on our network that aren't doing well financially, and the communities on them are failing because they just can't support the ecosystems that they're trying to build out, then that's not a good long-term strategy for us as a protocol, right? So we have to build it in a way that the rollups are long-term sustainable.
Ah, that makes sense. That definitely makes a lot of sense. Like my question was like, oh, how they actually make, the money. Does it come from the users, or does it come like from, the roll-ups? How it actually works? But like definitely good insights on that. And I think like what you're doing with the setting up the infrastructure on how people should be paying or who should be paying is actually a good idea. So for sure. Okay, so another question for you is I understand what NodeKit is. I know what you guys are doing with a decentralized shared sequencer or Seq, right? That's how you pronounce it. Um,
Yes.
what exactly was the inspiration, between a partnership between Avail and NodeKit? What do you think are the key goals or important things that, we will be achieving together? And why do you think it's important?
Yeah, well, it's pretty clear to us that we're both some
Mhm.
fantastic protocols in the industry that are really focused on two main things, right? So Avail is all about unification. That's the mantra of Avail, right? The unification layer of the internet. And we feel very similarly about how we approach things, which is like, let's bring together all these disparate ecosystems, because we can't long term be sustainable if we just have all these siloed ecosystems. It's like saying that, we would be where we are today in Web 2 if we had just remained on the same intranet structure that we had when we
For
initially
sure.
launched. Uh,
Yep.
we need to be able to communicate seamlessly across these different ecosystems. And so Avail being focused on unification and us being focused on composability really matches up well together. The other side of that is the ability to unify scaling solutions like rollups. So Avail is focused on the DA side of things, where you're decreasing the cost of running a rollup or an app chain or any of these different, however you want to say it, app chain, rollup, L2. I know there's a lot of different phrases out there. But Avail decreasing the cost of running one of those things enables more people to get on chain that aren't prohibited by cost. It's just saying, okay, where's actually the best place to launch this new app? Is it in a decentralized system? Well, cost isn't going to be one of those prohibiting things, and security of the Avail network as well is going to provide them the security of Ethereum, of the same level of security that you had in any other scaling solution, but this time with better costs. So by allowing for the scalability through the decrease of costs and all the security, and importantly, the support of the Avail ecosystem, because you can't doubt the value of an ecosystem. Uh, and we're just plugging in on top of that, where Avail provides the infrastructure to scale, and we provide the infrastructure to support the scaling solutions, then it meshes very well. And so I think we first got introduced couple months back. I mean, we've been working very closely with the Avail team. We've had some great meetings about some feedback around exactly how our technology works, exactly how we're proving different things within the system. And it's really tested our ability to build out the product in the way that the Avail users are going to want. And so I'm very happy to have worked with the Avail team over the past few months, and obviously been a great partner in the past, and look forward to being great partners going into the future as well.
For sure. I think yeah, together, like the Avail's whole idea is the unification. Like getting all the roll-ups, getting everyone else to unify, just remove the fragmentation of liquidity, the user experience fragmentation, which I really, really like dislike. Because if I have to like send someone money, and they asked it in the base, but I have it on the polygon, so I have to like make at least 5 clicks, 5 to 10 clicks, and this is what I really dislike right now. But yeah, this is one of our goals to actually unify all the rollups, make the user experience something better, and I think NodeKit would be really, really useful in achieving that goal. So, coming back to the same point of like the fragmentation, which I was mentioning to you right now, the idea here is like right now, there are at least 100 rollups. If you go to the L2 beats, you see there are like 50 rollups that are active, and then probably like 45 or something that are upcoming, and so on. There are multiple, there are a few DA layers, then there are other, services as well. So there's a lot of like modular Web3 future that people look at. My question is like, because of so many chains, there's a lot of fragmentation. There's a user fragmentation. There's liquidity fragmentation. So can you talk more about like, how NodeKit will approach this, composability? Like, we've been talking about composability and synchronism all this while, but like, do you think what's the higher vision or the bigger vision over here for to remove the fragmentation of user experience or liquidity or anything of that sort?
Yeah,
And this is
absolutely.
and this is
So
and this is mostly for like, I'm so sorry, but this is like mostly for the end user or the devs who are building. Like, let's say I don't work at Avail, I work at a normal, like I'm just a hacker or an indie dev. So I just want to like, build something. So what do you think like
yeah,
will improve my experience?
yeah. So let's say I'm a developer right now. Okay, I want to launch a DApp, and I obviously would like it to be successful. I want people to use the DApp because I like building things that people use. Um, what are my options right now? Let's say I have two options. I can launch on an L1. I can launch on a monolithic chain, or I can launch or in L2 or any other chain, or I can launch on an app chain on my own sovereign block space. So what are the pros and cons of that? Let's say the pros of being on your own app chain are you have your sovereign block space, so you actually own the network that you're on. You have the ability to control everything about your stack to optimize it for your use case, right? I think that's a very valuable primitive. But what are the downsides of that? Mainly, it's going to be really hard to get adoption because you're on your own chain. You have to have all these different bridges plugged into you. You have to like attract users to your new platform, and it's going to be a very, very difficult process of getting new
For sure.
users, new liquidity into that protocol, right? So then the obvious choice is you have to join these chains, and so the chains in this case are just have their pick and choice of which dApp they want to join their network. And so for the dApp developer, you have to choose a chain that best suits you, but it might not be perfect for you. In the case of the app chain, you build it out to be exactly what you want. So what if we could bring the liquidity of multiple different chains, bring the users of multiple different chains to app chains from day one? So you only launched where it was best for you to launch, or you launched on a general purpose L2 that's best for you to launch, or any of these different L2s or rollups that are suited for your use case without consideration of what the liquidity is on the network. So you actually build the best technology to give the best user experience without consideration of what the liquidity is like, what the user base is like, or anything like that. Because what NodeKit can provide is that liquidity, is the seamless communication between chains, is what enables for a unification of that liquidity and a unification of users across the different chains within the ecosystem. So when you're a developer looking at where should I launch my dApp right now, the answer is where the most liquidity is, because you have to get adoption through that liquidity, right? If you have the best dApp but no one uses it, then who knows? Who cares, right? You have to have the ability to attract users, the ability to retain users, but first you have to have the ability to get the first users. And so typically that's done through launching on a chain that already has liquidity. But here, if you want the benefits of an app chain, the benefits of maybe a different rollup that doesn't have as much liquidity, or a larger rollup that you want more liquidity from a different ecosystem, what we enable is for that liquidity to flow like water between all these different ecosystems. So for the dApp developer, it just opens up the choice of where you want to launch. You actually get to choose where's best for you to launch, rather than where do you have to launch in order to maybe get adoption.
Yep, yep. I think I agree with you there. So tell me a little bit more on like how. So this is just a question that just came into my mind when you were talking about the whole development process and stuff. How far are you into a fully fledged product? Like you have Seek right now, and then I think you guys have a testnet as well. So what is like a little bit of timeline, like some kind of alpha over there? How does it look like? You don't need to like share all the details, just a little bit here and there.
Sure. Well, we launched a DevNet in November for
Hmm.
just Seek, just the shared sequencer. But the full composability layer that includes Seek and Javelin is, I don't think I can share the timeline, unfortunately, with you right now. But,
That's okay.
I would recommend that you stay tuned. So
Okay.
I'll,
Okay.
I'll give you that little hint. But, yeah,
Yes,
no,
I was.
nothing official to
Yeah,
share at this time.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I was just going through the documentation as we were talking, and I'm like, huh, this looks very interesting, but how can I like actually, get involved or build on top of it? That's why I asked you. Okay,
Absolutely.
that's pretty good. So moving on to like, other ideas. One of the questions that I've always had is when founders are building something new, something innovative, and then they come up with like, they hit a roadblock. There's things going wrong, there are things going right. What are like the few things that you encountered with your journey, with NodeKit and everything? What are like some technical challenges that you encountered, or some kind of non-technical things? And how do you think it shaped NodeKit better, or you as a person better?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Let's start on the technical side, I'd say.
Mhm.
It's a pretty big challenge to solve all these different problems about, the future of blockchains, and what we're actually building towards as an ecosystem. And so I would say difficulty in the technical aspect of building out all these different systems for sustainable growth and sustainable usage across the rest of the ecosystem are plentiful, right? You have to consider the fact that you might scale tomorrow to be the full volume of the whole blockchain ecosystem, but you haven't really even started developing yet. I mean, so building out the frameworks with all these different partners is really how we've approached um, gaining more insights into exactly what we need to be building, for whom we need to be building it, and focusing exactly on how we're going to provide the best possible user experience as we continue to scale, as we go from just the idea stage, or a couple or more than a couple months ago now, and into the actual development of the product and seeing how the users are responding. So on the technical side, there's a ton of different roadblocks that stand in the way, but really it's all about leveraging your partners, leveraging the community to see exactly how you're going to be able to tackle the problems, what they want to see as an end result, and how you can kind of fix exactly what you're building out to suit that end use case. I would say outside of the technical realm, and more so in the, building up a protocol, building up the
Mhm.
community around it, it's quite difficult to balance all of it at the same time,
For sure.
especially as we were just in university in the early days of NodeKit, balancing all these different things. You have like a part-time job to keep the lights on, to pay
Sure.
rent, right?
Yep.
So to be able to balance the development of these systems with the ability to go out, meet new partners, and expand our ecosystem, but also just do enough to keep the lights on. It's definitely a different challenge there. So always being organized, being methodical about how you're thinking about where you're spending your time, who you're speaking with, taking meetings with everyone, because it's a very difficult industry to really get to know. There's a lot of different things to learn about the different communities in the industry, and just every opportunity that you have when you start from maybe an outsider perspective, as we have in the middle of nowhere in Iowa. Really being grateful for those opportunities and continuing to expand upon them when they come up, but always managing the time as best
For
you
sure.
can, because you only have 24 hours in the day. So, yeah, a lot of different
Definitely.
things that come up. Yeah,
So yeah, like I was just gonna ask you another, just a follow-up question, and it's more like, what do you generally, like, you said that there in the early days you were in the college, now you're, like full time into the node kit. How do you actually, and this is an advice that I would seek for other new founders who might be in the similar roles. What do you think will be the advice that you give them if they're, moving from, let's say, a university or their full-time jobs and then going all in their startup in Web3? Especially, let's just say, if they don't have any idea of how community works or how the business side works. They might be, very good at technically, but how does the business side of work? And just like, some kind of tips, some kind of suggestions over there.
yeah, definitely. Well, first, I just want to start by saying it's worth it. So you have to just take that opportunity. You have to take the chance on it, right? You're not going to progress individually if you just, resign to a more mundane style of life. You have to like take the opportunities as they come at you. If you have exceptional development talent, you have to go out and really strive to build something exceptional if you can, because it's an amazing gift and we all benefit from it, especially us in the blockchain world where things can happen so fast. If you're an exceptional developer, you can just build up the fantastic tech. Find someone. I would recommend, if you are in the situation of you're a fantastic developer with maybe a lower EQ that it struggles to have like conversations with different partners, really uh, audiate how you think about the product and share it with the world. Find someone else in your network, find someone else who's passionate about it, do a hackathon. There are plenty of people focused on sort of the rest of the business outside of the technology in order to expand upon what your ideas are. So I would recommend, if you're heavily technical focused, find the recommendation everyone always says is find someone else to work with to handle the rest of
Sure.
it so you can focus on just the product, right? But yeah, I would say just go for it. Like, obviously, I think that's the common advice, but if you're building something and you have a high conviction in it, then it's more than likely that you'll find someone else and some community around people who find really what you're doing is really cool also. So
Yep.
just be passionate about what you do. Follow exactly what you think is the right thing to do for your protocol, and in time, with some weighting of what people say about it, say like, oh, you have a mentor that says you should go somewhere around this route and you should listen to it, but don't take it all the way internal. In the end of the day, what you feel is the right decision is probably the right decision for the protocol. And so building it out in a way that focuses on the way that you see the vision as playing out is the best route. And if you see some people have started to come along with the vision, you're starting to build a little bit of community around it, go all in, because if some is good, more is better. You should just really focus on what's working and yeah, take a chance on it.
Yeah, I think I agree with most of your stuff, especially on the point like is to find someone, if you're not good in the community, but you're like really good at the technical side. So maybe like find someone who can balance it out for you.
Yeah,
Look at the
yeah,
other things.
yeah, and it
That's
goes both ways, right? I
isn't
mean, like,
is it,
there's
is,
plenty of
yeah.
people who are hyper
Mhm.
technical. And there are plenty
Mhm.
of people who are really, really focused on business side and have great communication skills and can really formulate the thoughts of the technical person in a way that's easy to understand and easy to go out and share with the market why it's valuable. So in order
Sure.
to combine the best of those two, there's plenty of both people. So if you're lacking one, just go out and find them.
For sure. I think that's what Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak did it. I'm a big Steve Jobs fan,
Right.
and fun fact is I don't own any Apple product. I never owned any Apple product until last month or 2 months back. That's when I got a MacBook. But I'm a big,
Mm,
big Steve Jobs fan. Like ever since I was a kid, like probably 12 or 13. That's when I've been like following him, but I never used the Apple products. I don't know if it's what
interesting.
kind of irony is this, but that's true. That's very true.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I haven't done that just because the phones are cheaper if you get them from T-Mobile. It's like $200 instead of a couple
Oh
thousand.
yeah,
So
yeah, for
that's always been my route.
yeah, for sure. That's right. I think I've always been like an Android person, growing up, and then I like the flexibility of Android rather than like,
Mhm.
if you're on an iPhone, you have to have like a little bit of restricted control, like, end-to-end encryption, or like you cannot use some other applications that you download from internet, where in Android you have the liberty to do whatever, similar for MacBook, but that's completely fine,
Yeah. Permissionless
Um,
systems, man. That's what it's all about.
exactly. But yeah, it was a nice chat. I just want to ask you like a final thing, where people can learn more about NodeKit. Can they directly reach out to you? Some kind of Discord? Do you have something? And then like I'll link those details in the tweet below us so that people can look at it as well. But do you have something for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can reach out to me on Twitter. You can reach out to the NodeKit Twitter. That's NodeKit,
Okay.
NodeKit org,
Okay.
ORG. Or, you can go to the bio there. There's a link tree and Discord, all that stuff. So feel free to DM, hop into the Discord, join the community, start making some memes. And yeah, but any way of reaching me is works. So
For sure, for sure. Cool. But yeah, thank you for being here. I think this was very much interesting topic. I have not dived deeper myself in the decentralized, sequencer era. But it's actually like really good to know talking to you, and I think you guys are building something really, really great. So yeah, thanks
I
again for being
appreciate that.
here.
Thank you very much. Let's bring
Yep,
composability to the whole ecosystem. Let's do it,
for
guys.
sure, for sure. Let's bring the composability.